Knowledge Makers began as an undergraduate Indigenous research program funded by our research office here. They wanted to increase the amount of Indigenous students accessing undergraduate research opportunities. So they said, we would like to invest in this. Can you basically help us out with it? And since then, their approach has been to say yes. And it's been the best approach, and I think that's what makes it successful. What we did in our first 2 years, Knowledge Makers undergraduate, was we brought students together for 2 days. And during those 2 days, we made sure we built relationship. And we also talked about what Indigenous research is and how Indigenous research can help you to make the change in the world you want to see, and how you can help your community through research. The program so far has had 28 participants. Of those 28, we've had 2 go into post-baccalaureate studies, 4 master's students, 9 research assistants, 3 scholarships, 1 international internship, and 28 students have published, some more than once. We've got 13 new Knowledge Maker students who come together next week. We're so excited. It really is one of the programs that you love doing. So what happens from they apply, they do need to meet a GPA requirement that is slightly flexible. I meet with them one-on-one, or we now have Jeffrey McNeil-Seymour, who's from Kamloops. He's going to be coordinating the program because I'm clearly not from here based on my accent, and it's really important to us that somebody of this land runs this program. We meet with them one-on-one, we talk about the change they want to see, we talk about their communities, and we talk about how they could do a research project that would contribute to this. From there, they come to the from there, they do an e-portfolio. The e-portfolio gives them the opportunity to reflect on who they are, who their community is, who inspires them, what their values are. And we kind of talk through how research is completely value-laden, despite what the university says. And we talk about how their own values can help with the research project. We meet for 2 days. We have a really intense 2 days. We make research plans. We talk about articles. We talk about what research is. We sat in a room with students who had never been in a space that was just Indigenous people at this university. And one of our students, Marcus Scherer, who comes to conferences with us to talk about his experience, always talks about how powerful that was. Yes, we need to make space for allies, but we also need our own space so that we can do what we need to do and say what we need to say without worrying, right? From there, they get 2 weeks, and then they have to submit an article in response to our call for papers. The article is peer-reviewed. It's sent back to them. They have 48 hours to turn it around. They send it back to us. We send it on to a copy editor. They have 24 hours to turn it around after that. Then it gets published. It's published in hard copy and soft copy. We come together for a celebrating Indigenous research dinner. At the dinner, we have an Indigenous keynote who talks about why Indigenous research is important. We celebrate the achievements of our Indigenous researchers, and we give them their $1,000 scholarship, and we give them 5 copies of the journal in hard copy. The first copy has to go to a family or friend that they've brought with them, which aligns with our traditional practices when hunting or harvesting, or fishing, for me and I. And I think what's sort of core throughout there is the presence of our elders. So our elders attend the workshop and they are part of the circle. They have just as much to offer, if not more, than what they can learn from the institution. So our elders contribute to the experience by feeding back on the articles, talking about what they think is important for community to learn about, what they think the university should know about. They come to the dinner, they're in our journals, their words are in their journals, and Elder Mike's words around, I mean, he always talks about how the impact of those 2 days on him, and knowing that with everything that the community's been through, that there's hope, that there are people out there who are working, and that the youth are really excited to be the change. And I know that he likes it because every year, somehow he got my phone number, because every year he gets in touch with me and says, I want to come back. And for me, that tells me that the program we're doing we're doing something right. One of the things we do to acknowledge the elders is all of the students get a hoodie that has the Knowledge Makers image on it. But what we do first is we take the elders' hoodies and we pass them around the circle, and the students hold them and they say what they're grateful for with the elders. So the elders walk away with, I guess what we would call it is mana, but just that respect and strength, and knowing what the students mean to them. And the students say that they haven't really had the opportunity to do that, or they felt a little shy to do it one-on-one. But when you're going around a whole circle and saying what the elders mean, it gives them not permission, but an opportunity to talk about that role. We have 3 things that we must do. We must talk about Indigenous research, we must make a research plan, and we must talk about what a research article looks like. Otherwise, the 2 days, we will see where it goes. And what happens is people join us, they join the circle, they talk a little bit about why they're there, what they do. It kind of just becomes its own thing. Each year has been different. This year will be different again.
Deans come in, leaders, the AVP research comes through.
The president attends the dinner, even though we only give him 2 weeks' notice.
But we also now we have returning knowledge makers. They come back to actually share their knowledge and share their story, and they came through to the second time that we had the gathering with community and family members. And it was through them that we were able to smudge the journals for the first time. Sariana, Fiji, Aotearoa New Zealand, Arini, Samoa, Aotearoa New Zealand, and then our First Nations students just step in and they take it and they look after the ceremony for all of that. And when it's done, then we are told it's time we can begin. So I think something I find really precious is that we have a way of honouring all that everybody brings to this, and just a deep desire to see more Indigenous knowledge makers coming through and leading this work rather than being led to it or being mere participants in this. Everybody here taking part in knowledge makers is authoritative and respected for that. So where we've got to now is that we started with undergraduate. We now have a knowledge makers doctoral circle reflecting the same principles, and this year the knowledge makers undergraduate includes that final piece, and that's that there are some spaces, some seats and knowledge makers dedicated for our postgraduate students as well. So we have undergraduate, masters and doctoral, and we're making all of the circles work because people are saying this is what's needed. There's no original idea at all in this. There's simply people saying this is what we need, and then everybody's rallying to make it happen.
What I appreciate about the master's students this year is they're stepping up, they're taking part this year, and then they're going to guide us on what the master's program should look like, because it's important to them that they have the opportunity to engage in Indigenous research and to be in Indigenous space. Yeah, it's important to us that we reciprocate their time, so they're published, they're getting scholarships. We keep a list of them for research assistants. We get approached all the time for knowledge makers to become research assistants. We want them to engage in research. One of them is a research assistant for our project with Sequitmic Health Hub. We were looking at the role of wellness and identity ceremonies. So we're working with the nation here to look at how identity ceremonies inform Indigenous wellness. And we've got an Indigenous RA working on that, who's learning about what Indigenous research is and coming to the community meetings and learning how you could talk. Well, not learning, they already know that get the elders food, but learning how to engage as a researcher and a community member, because he spent his entire time at a university being told you cannot be within and without the community, whereas for Indigenous research you can't do it unless you're in the community. It's inspiring to spend time with them. They're amazing students.
In fact, we've got a room full of people who are saying, my research intentions, my knowledge making is going to be around trauma. It's going to be around First Nations language. It's going to be around water. It's going to be around Indigenous business. And then one of our knowledge makers said, "I'm so glad to have met you all, because now I'm going to read your work and I'm going to encourage others to read it. But I'm also going to relax into my area of saving my language, because although I've been worried about environment, worried about family well-being, worried about poverty, worried about so many things, I know you have it covered. So now I can be me and do my thing, and I want you to know I will honour my responsibility. So I think that's one of the really unexpected things that's come, is the sense of I'm part of a knowledge making community, and it's okay for me to focus.
Yeah.
And what I so cherish about the research work that's identified is that it is so practical, it's so applied, it's so real, and I think by being in the circle together we get courage, and we know that we're not alone, and that it's okay to be me as a knowledge maker. In fact, Joanne Brown, she spoke about this. She said, we all come with a sacred creator within us. You all created who you are, and being in this circle today, that was your own effort. And then she said, you have permission to be stubborn against systems that humans made to make your way up the system. Find the words, be stubborn, and do not be bowled over. Think about our traditional roots. Think about our traditional knowledge. We have got lots of work to do.
And that's like the opening call in the workshop. That's what she said on the first day.
Yeah.
She basically said, we've got work to do, and stand in your community and stand strong, because we are strong. And then Elder Mike always makes me cry with his final words. We always let Uncle Mike close it off. He's a core part, and one of the things he said in the first year was what I was referring to earlier, where he says, sometimes you find a place and it reminds you where you're going. You put a notch in the tree to remind you and your children who follow after you. I thank you all. You've put a notch in my heart to remember. And for me, that's to have our elders stand in the room and say, this is worthwhile.